Last minute shakeup at 5:30 a.m., laundry situation not good. And when your focus is on helping your clients, it's easy to forget about yourself. But NASM knows trainers.
Morning, Ryan. It's okay.
And staying in front of the day isn't always as
Thanks,
simple
Ryan.
as 1,
What's
2,
up?
3. So when the unexpected has you pressing pause,
What's the latest on creatine?
I'm going to get back to you on that.
let NASM 1 help you press play. Visit NASM.org to sign up for a membership today.
You're listening to the NASM-CPT Podcast with Richey, winner of the Share Care Emmy Award for Social Storytelling and the official podcast of the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the NASM-CPT Podcast. My name is Richey, and today I want to talk about some modifications in training when it comes to working with aging or aching clients. And I like this idea because my business partner, Mark Miller at the gym's independent training spot, reached out to me and he was like, we're talking about something else for work. And then he goes, well, what are you doing your podcast on today? And I said, I'm not sure yet, but I got to go and record. And he goes, can I tell you some of the things I've been working on a lot more lately? And I said, yeah, please. And he goes, well, I've noticed that as my clients I've been working with for years, many of them are getting older and to a point where it's harder for them to go hard in the paint constantly. And he goes, same thing for me. And this is true because he's one of those guys just bodybuilding. And then he went from bodybuilding into Jim Jones and that type of hardcore training. And then which he still does. And he runs classes for the personal trainers that work out at our gyms. And I don't attend those classes. I'm like, I got too many things. I'm already in this modification for aging and aching people, but it's now catching up with him. And it's funny. I can see the difference because he used to, if he just got an hour break, he's just lifting hard and doing crazy lifts and he's cleaning and like clean lifts, not cleaning the gym. He does that too. But he's really calmed it down. Well, he hasn't calmed it down. He's just added time in for a lot more foam rolling and flexibility and mobility training. And I was like, that's it. Those are the things. And so it's funny. I'll watch him do his virtual sessions and he'll be down on the floor foam rolling and doing mobility drills. And then I was like, I noticed you've been doing it a lot more because I see you doing it when you're doing virtual sessions. He goes, oh, that's me coaching them through what the drill is. And I was like, oh, you're actually giving a lot of mobility training. And this is someone, a hardcore trainer. And it starts to catch up to you as you age and as you ache. So this is what happens as we age. It's common to lose flexibility and mobility. We have more stiffness. We get more aches for no apparent reason sometimes. And I was on a road trip just recently over the holidays from New York City to Cincinnati, where my wife's family is. And we're going back home for the holidays to visit. And after about a 3-hour stretch on the road without stopping, we finally pulled over to get some gas. And my knee refused me exodus from the car. My knee refused and chastised me because of the lack of movement. And if motion is lotion, my knee had rusted shut and my inability to move was remarkable. And stepping out of the car, just trying to straighten my knee was painful. Then put weight on it. And then all of a sudden I'm moving and now that motion is lotion and it got so much better, but that never used to happen. That's new. What do you do? And your clients are going to deal with things like this. And I talk about it because sometimes my clients go, oh, me too. And I'm like, well, I would have completely continued to train you the way that I train myself when my knee doesn't hurt, because I'm not taking into consideration pains that you have that I don't know about. And so that's why it's good to do these corrective exercise routines for warm-ups and to give them an at-home practice. And so it really goes back to those three things: foam rolling those short, tight, overactive muscles, stretching those muscles that you rolled, and then practicing mobility. And flexibility and mobility have a lot in common, but they are also they're also different in their takeaways. So flexibility is really about muscles, tendons, ligaments, their ability to be flexible, right? So your joint isn't necessarily flexible. The soft tissues around them are flexible, and flexibility in those tissues can help and allow for mobility. So it's focusing on passive range of motion. It can focus on active range of motion. It can be holding corrective flexibility, right? So holding static stretches is a big part of it in order to increase your ability, your neuromuscular ability to increase range of motion at the joint because of the elasticity of the tissue. Mobility, on the other hand, refers to the ability of the joint to move freely through its full range of motion. And it can do that because of flexibility, but it can also do that because sometimes the joints get stuck and the joints have to practice movement in order to get that. So mobility is dependent on the joint capsule. Mobility is dependent on how the joint is moving, the practice of going through it, not necessarily just whether or not a muscle is tight surrounding it. So we're going to see focusing more on active range of motion when it comes to mobility. And muscle activation involves more dynamic things such as squatting and lunging. And that is how we try to take both of these things, because I don't find that you can do a lot of them without the other. So there is flexibility, and it helps to feed joint mobility. This episode of the NASM-CPT Podcast is brought to you by NASM One, the membership for trainers and coaches. Members enjoy unlimited access to hundreds of career resources. Get the Edge app to schedule and program clients. Enjoy half off all certifications and specializations, access to free CEUs, and more. All of this for just $35 a month. Go to nasm.org/membership to learn more about NASM One. So if we just go through everything together, this warm up, which is preparing the tissues for movement, preparing the body for movement, then I start with the foam roller, foam rolling the tight muscles. A lot of times my calves get involved in that. I realize that because I have a knee that seems to be more arthritic, then I'll spend more time on the quads in that leg and less time on the one and the other one where it doesn't bother me as much. And then I can just foam roll. If I get up and move, I immediately move better and feel better while I'm moving. So the foam roll is good for me. And then foam rolling basically creates this inhibitory effect in the muscle. And so stretching it after foam rolling is highly indicated. Now we're going to increase flexibility through range of motion, not just through compression, not just through autogenic inhibition, but we're also now getting the autogenic inhibition beyond pressure, but now through increasing flexibility via range of motion by lengthening the tissue and holding it. And then there are mobility drills. And mobility drills are interesting. A mobility drill that could help me with that, my tight quads, could just be practicing sitting in a squat position. And I've seen people do it where they turn their feet out, they turn their legs out, they squat down deep, and you'll see them shift kind of deeper squat into one side and the other, feet more narrow, driving one knee forward, getting range of motion at the ankle. Those are mobility drills. And so I have a series of mobility drills that I like to do for people who are aging, aching, or coming back from long trips. So they might be coming back from flights or long road trips. And I find flights sometimes can be worse. A short flight can be as bad as a long road trip for whatever the reason is. And so there's some mobility drills, and I have a standard that I kind of peeled apart from time to time, but these are a lot of the drills that I like to do that I want to share with you. So mobility drills, I'll have people do inchworms to escalating push-ups. Now an inchworm, I'll have people keep their knees as straight as they can for as long as they can. Reach their hands down to the ground, which means I have to bend my knees, but I try to keep them as straight as I can, as long as I can. And then my hands get to the ground and I start to walk my hands out. Well, after I get to a certain place, as soon as I can straighten my knees back out, I lock my knees back out straight again. And I crawl all the way out until I get to a push-up position. And then I do a push-up for the first one. And then I inchworm by moving back to my feet. So my feet stay planted. It's only my upper body that's moving. And so I inchworm backwards. My feet stay planted. My hands push me back. My knees will need to bend at some point. You may not have to. Good on you. But not this guy. So I'll bend my knees until I can straighten them again. And then I'll stand up top. And that's one. I usually have people do 5. And you can just do 5 inchworms, but I'll have inchworms to push-ups, which is a push-up every time you do an inchworm, or escalating push-ups. So if I have people do 5 inchworms to escalating push-ups, then the first one is 1 push-up. The second inchworm is 2 push-ups. The third one is 3. The fourth inchworm is 4. The fifth inchworm is 5 push-ups. So it's a lot of push-ups, but still only 5 inchworms. I go into the world's greatest stretch. If you don't know what that is, you're going to have to look it up. But it's a very involved stretch, and that's why it's the world's greatest stretch, I reckon, because it helps to stretch the anterior hip on one side, the posterior hip on the other, and then you practice spinal mobility with it as well. A track stretch. A track stretch. If you ever see people they line up on the line, like they're about to take off running, and they go ready, set, and then their butts go up really high, but their hands are still down on the line. It's a track stretch with one leg in front, one leg behind, and you focus an active hamstring stretch for the lead leg. And then switch it over, do a set on the other side. I do open books. Open books are one of the most important versions of this. So open books and cat-cow, and a lot of people have a lot more mobility and flexion and extension. As we age, getting that additional flexion and extension is important, but I will do that prior to doing open books, which is a rotational pattern where usually I lie on my side. I'll hug one knee up towards me, keep that knee on the ground, and then I will rotate my trunk away from the knee. So I'm on one side. If I'm laying on my right side, then I rotate my torso to my left, but my knee stays down on the right side. So it's basically me wringing out my spine in order to get range of motion, mostly for the thoracic spine. The more of a posterior tilt you get with your pelvis, or the higher your knee is towards your chest, the less movement in your lumbar spine will take place, and the more the thoracic will move, which is the goal for this. The lumbar spine, a lot of times pain can come, not because you are not mobile enough, but sometimes because your thoracic spine isn't mobile enough and your lumbar spine is doing too much movement to compensate for it. There's an exercise called scorpions and iron crosses. You'll have to Google those two. They're way too hard to explain what those are. And then the cobra push-ups, where it's like you do a push-up, but you keep your pelvis onto the ground. So it's about hyperextending the spine, getting some range of motion and extension. Now, some of your clients, these are going to be terrible exercises for. Some of your clients are going to have a spondylolisthesis or something like that, and you need to be aware of it before you start saying, oh, let me go into this increased extension in the spine, because it may not be good for you. And then crawling out to stand, which is like an inchworm, but you don't have to keep your knees straight. So you just squat down, crawl out into that push-up position, crawl yourself back into that squat position, and stand up tall. And that's a series that I line up of mobility drills for a lot of my clients. It's good for me. It's good for them. It could be good for you too. Let me just read them again, and you may have to look some of these up. The mobility drills that I do: inchworms to escalating push-ups, world's greatest stretch, track stretch, open books, scorpions, cobra to push-up, iron cross, crawl out to stand. Those are my series. You want to use it, take it, implement it, but also with your clients as we get older and as we get achier, doing a bit more of that foam rolling, a bit more of the flexibility work, and a bit more of the mobility work is going to really help your clients feel and function better, not just during the workout, but throughout their day as well, which is why it's also good not to just do it as your warm up at the gym, but to give it to them as homework to do throughout the day, or at least daily, as maybe a morning practice when they wake up and going through their foam rolling, their stretching, their mobility drills. All right. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, share with your fitness friends and family. Leave a review for goodness sakes. And if you want to reach out to me, hit me up on Instagram at dr.rickrichey or email me rick.richey@nasm.org. Y'all keep inspiring people to fitness. Thanks for listening. This has been the NASM CPT Podcast.